What is the Filipino word for house? What is the Filipino word for water? What is the Filipino word for sun? What is the Filipino word for moon? What is the Filipino word for food? Borowar. What is the Filipino word for rice cooked? What is the Filipino word for fish? Bind. What is the Filipino word for fire? Damayan. What is the Filipino word for friend? Kayan. What is the Filipino word for love? Then, what is the Filipino word for mother? What is the Filipino word for barstator, father? What is the Filipino word for child? What is the Filipino word for morning? What is the Filipino word for night? What is the Filipino word for thank you? What is the Filipino word for hello? What is the Filipino word for yes? What is the Filipino word for no? What is the Filipino word for dog? What is the Filipino word for cat? What is the Filipino word for bird? What is the Filipino word for rain? What is the Filipino word for wind? What is the Filipino word for tree? What is the Filipino word for road? What is the Filipino word for school? What is the Filipino word for teacher? What is the Filipino word for student? What is the Filipino word for book? What is the Filipino word for chair? What is the Filipino word for table? What is the Filipino word for door? What is the Filipino word for window? What is the Filipino word for money? What is the Filipino word for work, die? What is the Filipino word for sleeping? What is the Filipino word for run? What is the Filipino word for walk? What is the Filipino word for eat? What is the Filipino word for drink? What is the Filipino word for happy? What is the Filipino word for sad? What is the Filipino word for big? What is the Filipino word for small? What is the Filipino word for fast? What is the Filipino word for slow? What is the Filipino word for cold? What is the Filipino word for hot? What is the Filipino word for beautiful?
So, how many did you get right? Comment below your score. Let's see who's the real geography genius. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for the next fun quiz.